There are moments in cinema that do not just tell a story, they demand to be felt. They pull you into a world that is crumbling, where every choice, every word, every moment carries the weight of something far greater than itself. Revenge of the Sith is not just a film, it is a tragedy written in fire and blood, a masterpiece of destruction where hope does not win, and destiny does not bend to the will of good men. It is the moment Star Wars sheds its illusions and reveals the inevitable truth. Some stories were never meant to have happy endings. The prequel trilogy told the story of a republic at war, of a Jedi Order clinging to the past, of a boy who was destined to bring balance, yet lost himself in the search for it. But none of that truly takes shape until Revenge of the Sith. This is where everything breaks, where the final threads of light snap under the weight of deception, betrayal, and war. The battles of the past were political, they were strategic, they were fought in Senate halls and council chambers. But this war is different. This is a war of souls, a war of trust, a war where no one walks away without scars. There is a power in tragedy, a weight that lingers far longer than victory ever could. We remember the heroes who rise, but we never forget the ones who fall. Anakin Skywalker was meant to be the greatest Jedi, yet his story is not one of triumph, but of descent. He was not stolen by the dark side, he was abandoned by the light. His fall is not a moment, it is a slow, agonizing realization that everything he fought for, everything he believed in, was never meant to save him. The Jedi saw him as dangerous, the Republic saw him as a weapon, and the one man who truly understood him was the only one who never wanted to save him. Revenge of the Sith does not give you time to breathe. From the first moment to the last, you are watching a galaxy collapse, an order dissolve, a hero become the very thing he swore to destroy. It is unrelenting, it is painful, it is beautiful. Every duel, every loss, every choice carries a weight that lingers long after the credits roll. It is not just the best of the prequels, it is one of the most powerful stories Star Wars has ever told. Because in the end, it is not just about what is lost, it is about what was never meant to be saved. In this video, we are going to explore why Revenge of the Sith is the best movie in the prequels. We will look at the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, the fall of the Republic, the weight of the dark side, and the artistry of the film itself. We will break down the choices that led to this ending, the brilliance behind its storytelling, and the emotions that make it unforgettable. This is not just a movie, it is an experience. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why. Anakin Skywalker was the Jedi's greatest warrior, but they never truly saw him for what he was. They feared his power, his passion, his drive to be something more than just another knight in their crumbling order. He wanted to save lives, to protect those he loved. They spoke of balance, yet they pushed him further into the shadows of doubt and isolation. The Jedi demanded control over their emotions, yet they expected absolute loyalty. They sat in their ivory tower, blind to the war raging outside, while Anakin fought on the front lines. Every battle scar, every fallen comrade, every mission that took him closer to the abyss was ignored by those who should have guided him. They never truly understood what they had in Anakin, and by the time they realized it, it was far too late. Palpatine, on the other hand, saw everything the Jedi refused to see. He whispered to Anakin, not as a master to a servant, but as an equal. He spoke of freedom, of power, of a way to protect the ones he loved, and Anakin listened because no one else ever did. In the end, it was not the dark side that consumed him. It was the feeling of being abandoned by those he had once called his family. And so he fell, not with a scream, not with a cry for help, but with a quiet acceptance that this was the only path left for him. The chosen one, the hero of the Clone Wars, the shining star of the Republic, was gone. In his place stood a man who had lost everything but gained nothing in return. The Republic was never as strong as it appeared, and the cracks in its foundation had been widening for years. The Clone Wars were not just a fight between armies, but a test of ideology. The Jedi clung to their traditions, believing they could maintain peace through war, while the Senate drowned in corruption. The galaxy was bleeding, and Palpatine was the only one willing to stitch the wound, no matter the cost. He played the Republic like a master musician, pulling its strings with a precision that made the Jedi look like fools. He gave the people an enemy, a crisis, a reason to trust him with absolute power, and they did, willingly, eagerly, even desperately. The Jedi sensed the danger but had no way of stopping it, because they had already lost the people's faith long ago. Order 66 was not just a betrayal, it was the culmination of years of manipulation. It was the Jedi's arrogance, their refusal to change, their blindness to the war around them that sealed their fate. They never saw the clones as anything more than tools, and in the end, those tools turned on them without hesitation. One command, one moment, and the entire order crumbled beneath its own weight. Palpatine did not just destroy the Jedi, he erased them from history. Their temples burned, their teachings outlawed, their very existence reduced to whispers and legends. The Republic had not been saved. It had been reforged into something stronger, something darker, something eternal. There has never been a duel in Star Wars with more weight, more emotion, more devastation than the one on Mustafar. It was not just a fight, it was an execution masked as a battle. Obi-Wan was not there to save Anakin, he was there to end him. He knew it, Anakin knew it, and yet neither of them could say it aloud. Every strike, every block, every desperate maneuver was a reflection of their shattered bond. They had fought side by side for years, survived countless battles, trusted each other beyond all doubt. And yet, in this moment, they were nothing more than enemies caught in a storm of rage and sorrow. There was no turning back, no forgiveness, no words that could mend what had been broken. The environment itself seemed to echo their fury. The lava raged, the air burned, the sky was consumed by fire and death. Anakin was stronger, but Obi-Wan was wiser. The Force was screaming in both their ears, but neither of them listened. This was fate, a tragedy set in motion long before either of them had ever picked up a lightsaber. And then, with one final stroke, it was over. Anakin lay broken, burning, screaming in agony as the last remnants of his old life were seared away. Obi-Wan did not look back, because he could not. The weight of his failure was too great, the pain too unbearable. The Jedi were gone, the Republic was gone, and now, the only person he had ever seen as a brother was gone too. The dark side is not just power, it is survival. It is what remains when hope is lost, when the light has abandoned you, when the world has turned its back on you. It does not comfort, it does not heal, it does not promise salvation. It only offers one thing, and one thing alone: control. Anakin became Vader because he needed control. Control over his fear, his pain, his losses. The Jedi had told him to let go, but letting go had never saved anyone. It had never saved his mother, it had never saved Ahsoka, and it had never saved Padme. So he did the only thing he knew how to do. He embraced the darkness, and in doing so, he became more powerful than ever before. But power is not peace. Vader had strength, but he had nothing left to fight for. He had crushed the Jedi, but the victory was hollow. He had secured the Empire, but the galaxy still feared him. He had sworn loyalty to Palpatine, but deep down he knew he was nothing more than a slave in a different kind of chain. The dark side had promised him control, but it had only given him emptiness. He had everything, yet he had nothing. And for the rest of his life, he would live with the unbearable truth that he had destroyed the very things he had once sworn to protect. Revenge of the Sith is not just a film, it is a descent into despair. It is a slow, agonizing collapse of everything the characters believed in. It does not give easy answers, it does not offer comfort, it does not pretend that good will always triumph over evil. It is raw, it is brutal, and it is honest. It is the story of trust being shattered, of friendships being torn apart, of a war that was never meant to be won. It is the fall of an order that had grown too blind to see its own mistakes. It is the destruction of a republic that had long since ceased to function. It is the death of a hero who could have been so much more. And yet, in its darkness, there is beauty. The cinematography, the music, the weight of every decision, every betrayal, every sacrifice, the opera scene, the Mustafar duel, the silent agony of Padme's final moments. There is an artistry to it all, a haunting, painful, unforgettable artistry. That is why Revenge of the Sith stands above the other prequels. It does not just tell a story, it makes you feel every moment of it. There was never another path for Anakin Skywalker, no matter how much we wish there had been. He was always going to fall, always going to break, always going to become something greater and more terrible than anyone had imagined. It was not the will of the Force, it was not fate, it was simply the consequence of choices, of failures, of fear. The Jedi thought they could stop the darkness, but they never understood it. The Republic believed itself invincible, but it was already crumbling from within. The war was not won or lost, it was never meant to end. It was simply the final stage of a plan that had begun long before anyone realized. Revenge of the Sith is not just a film about the fall of a hero, it is about the fall of an entire galaxy. It is the moment Star Wars changes, the moment everything that came before finally collapses. It is the ending of one story and the beginning of another, and that, more than anything, is why it is the best film in the prequels.